And what I try to remind people is we don't ask our doctors what toilet paper we should buy, what toothpaste we should buy, what bra we should wear. We don't typically ask our doctors those things, but we then think we're going to ask them, what should I eat? How should I exercise when we have a chronic condition? And they aren't trained in those ways of thinking. So for me, what I discovered is that when you come to more chronic health conditions, again, an acute condition is a broken arm, a heart attack, something that needs to be dealt with right away. A chronic condition means you're sick and you're not getting better. There's things going on for a long time, and our medical system isn't trained to address chronic conditions.
Welcome to Salad with a Side of Fries. I'm your host, Jenn Trepeck, talking wellness and weight loss for real life. We're here to clear up the myths, misinformation, bad science, and marketing to teach you how to eat and how to cheat. Are you ready? I'm having salad with a side of fries. Hey friend, welcome back to Salad with a Side of Fries. I'm Jenn Trepeck, your host and health coach, here with you every week for Wellness Without the Weirdness. And I'm curious if you've heard the phrase, yes and, before. So I remember it from an old acting exercise used all the time in improv. And it's the idea that whatever somebody else does in the scene or however they show up, you agree with it and add to it. So today we're talking about the yes and in healthcare. So let me introduce you to our featured guest. She's a functional medicine nutritionist and educator who has led thousands of clients and now teaches even more coaches and clinicians around the world in a revolution reclaiming ownership of both their own health and their clients' health. As a host of the 15-Minute Matrix podcast and the founder and former CEO of Functional Nutrition Alliance, she draws on systems biology, mental models, root cause methodology, and the therapeutic partnership to offer long-awaited solutions for the rapidly growing chronic illness epidemic. After losing her young husband to a brain tumor in 2002, she discovered a passion for using food as personalized medicine and is now regularly consulted as the nutrition expert for the toughest clinical cases in the practices of many world-renowned doctors. She trains nearly 4,000 practitioners each year in her methodologies so that they too can become the last stop for their clients and patients, as well as a trusted referral partner for doctors in their area. It's an honor to have her here with us. Without further ado, I give you Andrea Nakayama.
Yay, Jen. I'm so excited to be with you.
I know, it really does feel like an old friend is here because we've connected a few times now, so I'm excited.
I feel the same.
Awesome. And I'm really looking forward to this conversation because, when I talk about it, I sort of talk to people about navigating wellness within Western medicine. And so I'm so excited to hear your perspective and how you talk about it. We just have one more piece of housekeeping to tell our members what they're getting this week. So members, your recipe this week is for spicy grilled shrimp with pineapple sauce. It's light, super easy to make. The time of year, it's getting nice outside. So get outside, turn on the grill. You could also make this inside, but I love this one. And from Andrea, you're getting her Roadmap to Resolution ebook. Andrea, give us the 20-second description.
Yes, this Roadmap to Resolution shares my approach to addressing autoimmunity and chronic health issues from a root cause perspective. So it's going to introduce you to my 3 roots, many branches model, which may come up today.
Definitely will. Yep. It's on our list. So dig in deeper with Andrea's ebook and, of course, this recipe. So if you want these goodies, be sure you're a member. Go to glow.fm/salad with a side of fries for just $10 a month. You get weekly recipes, a monthly article or tool, extra discounts from me and our partners, plus access to live Q&A sessions. It's a total deal. I say it all the time. It's a steal when you take advantage of the full offerings because you're going to save far more than that $10 cost. It's seriously a no-brainer way to show yourself that your health is a priority. Plus, being a member supports this podcast and this community so we can continue to bring you new episodes and experts every single week. So remember, all you have to do is go to glow.fm/salad with a side of fries, or just click the link below because that's a lot easier. Once you're there, you click the little I agree button, follow the prompts to enter your email and payment info, click subscribe, and you're all set. You're going to get this week's recipe for the spicy grilled shrimp with pineapple sauce and Andrea's Roadmap to Resolution ebook.
Yay. I want shrimp with pineapple sauce.
I know, right? I'll send it to you too. Okay. I'll send it to you too. So we heard a bit of your background in introducing you, but I'm really curious because a lot of this started with your husband's story. So which came first for you, the interest in the medicine part or the interest in the nutrition part?
Well, it's such a good question. I think of the time of my late husband's illness as my kind of boot camp. And I was pregnant, 7 weeks pregnant when he was diagnosed. So there was a lot going on. But if I go back earlier, I was beginning to struggle with what I now know is my autoimmune condition, Hashimoto's autoimmune thyroiditis, very common these days. And I was trying to manage it with food, with lifestyle. I was noticing what made me feel better, what made me feel worse. In functional medicine, we call these our mediators. So I would say it started earlier than Isamu's diagnosis, but Isamu's diagnosis brought me into a very different realm of where Western medicine has its benefits and its limitations and how we come to that yes and.
Yeah, it's like we share a brain. So this is like the perfect place. And I feel like to make sure everybody's, on the same page with us in this conversation. So let's talk about Western medicine for a moment, right? There's sort of the pill for every ill approach. Yes. And there is certainly a place for that, yes. Like break an arm, need a surgery, 1,000%, right? Not that breaking an arm requires a surgery, but you know what I mean. But then we also have multiple epidemics of chronic disease.
Yes.
So how do we square that circle?
Yes. So this is really an important area to think about the yes and in relation to what our medical system can provide us with and what it won't provide us with. So I just want to talk about this in two examples. When Isamu was diagnosed, that was the first time we were kind of thrust into the medical system, right? So he had a brain tumor, a very aggressive brain tumor. Seemed to come out of nowhere. There were no signs prior to that. He was in his early 30s. So this was all a surprise. And all of a sudden, we're not just going to the doctor for a sinus infection or a broken arm. We're in the system, right? He's got a port in him. Right. They have access. There's a whole different world. And the first two gaps that I encountered were, you mentioned one of them. One is that people are treated like their diagnosis. So when you are in the medical system, you are your endometriosis, your fibroids, your breast cancer, your PMS. You are your symptom. And then the other gap that I saw was that everybody with the same symptom or diagnosis was treated the same. There was a pill for the ill. There was a protocol that was being used for that sign, symptom, or diagnosis. And so those were the first two things where I was like, wait a minute, this is Isamu. This is the love of my life. This is my soulmate. Like, why are you treating him like a brain tumor? I don't understand. So that was a big wake up for me. And I think also generations prior just believe lock, stock, and barrel in what medicine was telling them. So that was one thing that I just want to share. Like, there is a system.
And I think, too, what the doctor at that time was on such a pedestal.
Absolutely. That's exactly what I'm saying. Like, believe what they say. They know the answers. And what I try to remind people is we don't ask our doctors what toilet paper we should buy, what toothpaste we should buy, what bra we should wear. We don't typically ask our doctors those things, but we then think we're going to ask them, what should I eat? How should I exercise when we have a chronic condition? And they aren't trained in those ways of thinking. So for me, what I discovered is that when you come to more chronic health conditions, again, an acute condition is a broken arm, a heart attack, something that needs to be dealt with right away. A chronic condition means you're sick and you're not getting better. There's things going on for a long time. And our medical system isn't trained to address chronic conditions. So as an example, I said I have Hashimoto's. Somebody else has Hashimoto's. We reach the same tipping point. So in both of us, our immune system has begun to attack the tissue in our thyroid. What got us there is something different, but the treatment from an allopathic or Western medicine perspective is likely the same. So when we're looking at chronic health issues, what I find with clients is that they are often in a quest to get the name for what they're experiencing. They think the name is going to bring the resolution. It will be the pill for the ill. It's not. And then what? And so that's where we can really understand, yes, there may be a need to address something with a Western medical perspective. Isamu and I weren't saying no to chemotherapy, surgery, or radiation. We were saying yes. And what else can we do to prolong the 6-month prognosis he was given when I was 7 weeks pregnant?
Yeah. And it's so important because I think for all of us to feel empowered around our health. I also feel like it's potentially worth mentioning, you and I have had offline conversations and talked about how even wellness has also now to some degree, I call it, has been like Western medicinized,
Yes.
which is not a word,
Yes.
but
Yes.
because like everything sort of has this protocol.
Yes.
So before we get into details on things, what do you want everyone to know or understand about wellness and potentially even like choosing a practitioner or a guide in that side of the equation?
Well, I think that word is really important, guide. I love reminding people that you do need a guide, not a god. Nobody has all your answers. It's hard for me to pick one thing, but I just want to say there are always 2 experts in the room when it's you and the provider or providers that you're working with. And you're the 2 of you, it's a therapeutic partnership. And those 2 experts are the guide and you. And so what I want to remind patients is that we get to be, and by patients, I mean all of us, people, because we're all patients at one time or another, and we're all looking to be, more well or live longer or live healthier, that we have an expertise in ourselves that nobody else in the room has. And that doesn't mean we show up with our hands on our hips saying we know better, we know it's this supplement or that pharmaceutical, or I should be doing this, or you should know about the carnivore diet, or whatever you believe in. It's more, what do I know about my signs, symptoms, diagnosis, and history that I can bring forward so we both bring our expertise together? And how do I understand the scope of your expertise? And so somebody coming to me, my scope is not to be a neurosurgeon. My scope is not to be an oncologist. That doesn't mean I can't work with somebody who's experiencing neurosurgery or who has cancer or has autoimmunity or has a kidney disease. It means I'm working from a different scope with that individual. So know your expertise and know the person's expertise you are going to see or looking to for guidance.
Yeah. And I think even in the wellness side, right, when you're speaking to, that kind of practitioner too, in terms of, are they sort of giving you the same formulaic response
Correct.
that sort of Western medicine has gone to? Yeah. You speak to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I think you're absolutely, I even, struggle with the word wellness because I feel like it has become commodified in terms of like it is an industry as well. And everybody's selling something, whether they're selling themselves or they're selling some protocol or some way of living. And it really needs to be about you. So recognize who you're going to, how they're speaking to you, and the kind of investigation they're doing into you. If it's not about you, it's based on some bias that they have about a protocol that's out there, a test that's out there, a supplement that's out there. Everybody should be taking XYZ. Everybody needs to do this test, wear this wearable. be wary of the one size fits all. What I want to say to people is I believe and have seen how important bio-individuality is. We are all unique in so many aspects of our lives, our Spotify accounts, our jean sizes, our bras, our bed coolness, all of the things. We're seeking individuality for some reason. When it comes to our health, we want the easy pill that worked for our sister, our neighbor, our mother, our best friend. And just doesn't work like that, which makes it complicated. But we can make it easy when we come down to the principles that help us to manage our health more easily.
Yeah, and I want to go to those principles next, but there's something you mentioned, which is communicating what we know about our bodies and communicating our stories. And I think this is as much the questions that the practitioner asks as much as it is how we share our story.
Yes.
So what guidance or tips do you have for people in communicating what their knowledge of their own body is in a way that a practitioner, whatever, Western, Eastern, integrative, whatever, can hear it?
Yes. So I think tracking is our best tool, and we don't have to hyper track to the point where we're obsessing or navel gazing, just knowing the information around our symptoms. So let's say I have a migraine and I'm going in saying like, I have migraines. That gives my provider not enough information to work with me on what to do. If I can say, I have migraines. They tend to appear on the first day of my menstrual cycle. They last 3 days. I can't get out of bed. I can't go to work. They're debilitating. If I can give more information without the emotion because I have the facts through my tracking, that's going to help me 100%. This is one of the best tools I can give people, which is to know the difference between your signs and your symptoms. Our signs and our symptoms for our medical providers are completely different things. We can join them. So a sign is something that can be measured. If I'm unconscious, you can tell if I have a rash, if I have a fever, if there's something wrong with my breathing, because it can be measured. If I have a symptom, I'm tired, I have a headache, my heart is racing at a way that like you can't measure, but I feel. Those are our symptoms. And so when we can divide them, make lists for ourselves and speak in those separate ways, that gives our medical providers some way to categorize them. When we put them together, we're speaking two languages at the same time to one person.
And therefore, inevitably, confusion happens.
Confusion, trying to parse out. They're thinking, well, you're saying this, I have to measure that, and like, I can't hear that. Like, what does fatigue mean? I don't know what that means. I can't measure it. I don't know what it is. And we can put more color around that symptom for when it is, when it happens. I call it micro timelining. I'm constipated. I know that I have always been constipated. This is something I hear from people all the time. I've never slept well. I've always been constipated. Okay, tell me what that means to you. When was the first time you noticed or knew it was constipation? Well, when I was 6. Okay, what was happening when you're 6? Are there things that make it better or make it worse that you've tried over time? Having that kind of timelining in place to be able to communicate succinctly takes the emotion out of it and yet gives the person who's your guide more information to work with and to support you.
Yeah, and I love what you're saying, too, about the distinction between what we think about as the patient or consumer and what the practitioner thinks about as there's a difference between the sign and the symptom.
Yes.
And I love this as such a key takeaway because if that's one thing that somebody takes from this, I think it could be such a difference maker.
Yes. And I think a lot of times we get, especially as women, told that our symptoms are in our head. And if we can separate them, we're able to address one thing where we know, they can get a marker for me or from me. And then I can talk into the flavor of what's happening with this. And we can then have a different conversation. So They're two separate conversations that can benefit us so much when we subscribe to those differences.
Amazing. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. I want to now dig deeper into the 3 roots, many branches. But let's pause here to highlight our partner for this episode. Big thanks to Snap Cleaning Products for supporting Salad with a Side of Fries. Make household and industrial cleaning a snap with their eco-friendly, economical, multi-purpose Snap products. Snap's concentrated, multi-purpose formulas perform light to industrial strength jobs all in one bottle. Snap products give you the cleaning power of a variety of cleaners, saving you time, money, and valuable storage space. And Snap products were developed with the environment in mind, using plant-based ingredients that are biodegradable, phosphate-free, non-toxic, and bottled and recyclable containers. So I love Snap because I feel like it's another end or another area of the yes and in our modern world and our modern lives. So your Western medicine physician is likely not talking to you about the toxins in your cleaning products. Not to worry. We talk about it all the time. And Snap is an awesome solution. Snap products are safe and powerful because they're made of enzymes. So they actually break down the organic stains or material to remove them. The triple enzyme laundry detergent is just $13.95 for 40 ounces. It does up to 80 loads of laundry. It's truly free of chemicals and additives. The dish soap is $11.95 for 32 ounces. Maybe you're ready to one fell swoop, clean up all of your household cleaning products. You can get the Snap Pack for just $89.95. And these prices are all before your discount. So you get 10% off and free shipping for being a Salad with a Side of Fries listener. Simply text the word CLEAN, CLEAN, to 844-947-4846. You'll get the link and coupon code right to your phone. Again, text the word CLEAN, CLEAN, to 844-947-4846 to try Snap, in particular the triple enzyme laundry detergent or the Snap Pack for 10% off and free shipping. This is a toll-free number. Standard text and data rates may apply. Okay. Andrea, 3 roots, many branches is your philosophy or approach. Will you walk us through it?
Yes, I would love to. So I have 3 major systems that I like to work with that simplify how we think about health. And this is for teaching clinicians, but this is also super helpful for us all as patients. So 3 roots, many branches is one of those systems. And I'm going to paint a picture for us because we all know the term root cause resolution. And I think this is one of those places where wellness has done us a disservice because a lot of people are looking for the root. What is the root? I just need to find the root. Then I can solve the problem. I'm going to say if it's a chronic condition, any chronic condition, meaning you're sick and you're not getting better, there are always 3 roots. So I just spent the weekend in the Columbia River Gorge. I live in Portland, Oregon, and right now the wildflowers are insane. It's beautiful, just all over yellows, purples, and reds. And my boyfriend and I went out, and there's one tree that he loves to photograph in the wildflowers. So let's say, Jen, you and I are going and we see this tree and we are just amazed about how magnificent this tree is in the middle of this field of wildflowers. And we're walking towards it. And as we get closer, you notice that the branches on this tree, and it's springtime right now, are turning brown and they're falling off. And the leaves on some of these branches are brown and they're falling to the ground. And you're really struck by this tree and how much you want to help this tree to heal. And so we start brainstorming and we think, should we get a ladder and pick off the leaves of the tree so we don't have to look at them? Well, that's not going to get us very far. Should we get a ladder and a saw and saw off the branches where the bark doesn't look healthy? That's not going to do us much good either. So where do we need to go? Well, the branches and the leaves are showing us that they're not healthy. Let's get deeper to the trunk. Let's get deeper still to the roots. But wait a minute, where do those roots live? The roots live in the soil. So this is the 3 roots, many branches model. And the branches of our tree are any sign, symptom, or diagnosis. And we just talked about the difference between signs and symptoms. any diagnosis, my Hashimoto's, Isamu's glioblastoma multiforme, somebody's PMS, perimenopause, whatever it might be, those are signs, symptoms, and diagnoses. If you're listening right now and you have a sign, a symptom, or a diagnosis, write it down and put an equal sign and branch. That is not where we need to focus our attention. That's where the medical system can focus their attention. We're going to take our attention down deeper to the roots. The 3 roots of any chronic condition are always our genes, our digestion, and inflammation. 3 roots, all of them, all 3 need to be tended to in order for the branches to express themselves more fully. But the soil that those roots live in is where we, as patients, can focus our attention. So around the area of the genes, we can't change our genes, but we can change the expression of our genes. That area of science is called epigenetics. And the areas that we focus on are food, movement, environment, and mindset. Those are epigenetic factors. Even if 3 generations in your family had breast cancer and breast cancer genes, Alzheimer's, you have the ability to influence the expression of the genes you have with those 4 factors, the soil, or I also call it the circle of influence, which is a term that Stephen Covey coined, talking about the habits of the most successful people. So if we only focus on our genes and worry, we are just going to be in a worry state. If we focus on trying to control our genes, we're also in a state of anxiety. But the circle of influence gives us the area to focus. Again, food, movement, environment, and mindset are our epigenetic factors, our soil that surround our genes. And there's a lot in each of those areas that we can tend to before worrying about our perimenopause. So much. And each of those roots, and I'll pause after that, has its own circle of influence that allows us to say, where should I focus my attention instead of worrying about the branch?
Yeah. So for everybody, first of all of these things are what we talk about as a whole on Salad with a Side of Fries, right? And we have a nutrition nugget specifically on epigenetics if you want to dig into that a little bit more. And so the genes was sort of one root. Then we have digestion and inflammation, which we also talk about all the time. But I'm so hanging on your every word to hear how you talk about them.
Yes, I love that you speak into this. And it's so, everybody should know, first of all, Jenn is so smart and so cute. I'm just sitting here like looking and beaming. And it's so important to talk about these things and to bring our attention back. And when I bring this back to the yes and, I'm not saying that the sign, symptom, or diagnosis doesn't need to be addressed. Somebody else can do that. It's not your job as the patient, and it might not be other providers' job. So I always say it wasn't my job to address Isamu's brain tumor. It was my job to address the environment in which the brain tumor existed and in which the medical interventions were going. And that's a reframe. So digestion, I will always say, if we're talking about nutrition without talking about digestion, it's not functional. So nutrition science is coffee good or bad, collagen good or bad, paleo good or bad. It's really focused on this idea of the food outside the body. What makes nutrition functional nutrition is when we talk about the symbiosis, the place where the food meets the physiology or the biology or the body, your body, and it's going to be different for all of us. So the soil or the circle of influence around digestion is the mechanical, the chemical, the structural, and the microbial. Mechanical, we got to chew. When we chew, we activate the chemical. The structural needs to be in place. And I think we often want to jump to the microbial. It's very sexy to talk about our microbiome.
These days, yeah.
Chewing, then we got a problem with the microbiome, right? So there's a way that we start to look at that circle of influence for digestion.
It's so interesting because as you're pointing out all of these factors, right? And it can feel like each one starts to get complicated. The truth is, if you go back to even what you were saying before and what we know about ourselves, if we just sort of think about it for a minute, you probably know which piece of those is where you might want to focus.
Yes. And if you need help there, that's where you seek help. If something's not feeling right in your digestion, if you have any health issue that isn't resolving and you're like, I feel issues in my gut, or I can't eat so many foods, or whatever story you're telling yourself, that's where you focus. That is a place where when you address your digestion, you're going to actually be addressing so many different things in your body and your life that allow you to have a diet that is as vast as it can possibly be for that time period in your healing journey.
Okay, great. And then inflammation.
Okay, this one's a little more broad. And I love this one because the soil or the circle of influence, and again, you can think of this and you'll be able to see it in the ebook. It's a Venn diagram with these 3 roots and then the circles that go around them like a orbit around Mars. So with inflammation, it's clear, calm, enhance, and modulate. Now that speaks to the immune system. We might need to clear a food. We might need to clear an environmental factor. We may need to clear a relationship that isn't serving you or a mindset that's telling you you can't get better. Clearing is broad. It could be an infection, so many different things. But we also need to calm the system down. For a lot of us, our immune system and our inflammation are on overdrive. We need to make sure the immune system is enhanced, but also modulated, not too much in overdrive. But the way I like to think about this circle of influence is also in relation to the nervous system. So when we're thinking about clearing and calming, I like to remind folks that when we are in a sympathetic dominant state, do, fix, I'm broken, we cannot heal in that state. So sympathetic dominant is our fight or flight response. And the wellness industry, going back to your topic of conversation there, Jen, has kept us in fight or flight, thinking it should always be the next thing. Our skin should be clearer. We should be living longer. Our belly should be flatter. All the things keep us in that sympathetic dominant state. Our parasympathetic dominant state is when we're in rest and digest. So even when I think about clear, calm, enhance, and modulate, I'm thinking not just about inflammation and the immune system. I'm thinking about the interconnection of all the systems and how the body needs to be in rest and digest to even be able to heal.
I can't help myself because as you're saying all of this, I hear somebody listening going, okay, I get it. And, yes, and.
Where do I start?
Where do I start? And where does sleep fit in? Where does my movement fit in? Where does, like, all the other things that we also hear about all the time as so important?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I think that's so good. And remember, this model is to help us understand the signs, symptoms, and diagnoses are branches, and we can focus elsewhere. And I have 2 different models. One of them is called 3 tiers to nutrition mastery. Tier 1 are our non-negotiables. We each are going to have our own non-negotiables. But for me, the non-negotiable trifecta, and this is really where people can focus, and I'll break it down even further, is sleep, poop, and blood sugar balance. Exercise does exist in our circle of influence with the genes, and it also exists on a different model. So we do need movement. It's key. But sleep, poop, and blood sugar balance are foundational. They are non-negotiable. If we are skipping those factors in our quest for other things to do, we are building on quicksand. So let's just even think about the microbiome. If you're not sleeping, you're not pooping, and your blood sugar is in balance, I don't care how many seed probiotics you're taking. You're not building on a foundation that's going to support you. And more research shows us that those factors influence our inflammation, our microbiome, our epigenetics. So again, sleep isn't a command. It might need some work. We might need to do the digging. If you say, I'm not sleeping, what do you mean by that? When are you going to sleep? What is your sleep environment like? Are you waking up in the middle of the night? How many times are you waking up? What happens when you wake up? When you wake up, are you feeling rested, right? So there's a lot of inquiry before we start bringing in the remedy. For practitioners, I call it the art of the practice: assess, recommend, track, repeat. And a lot of times we're jumping to recommendation without an appropriate assessment.
We're doing that ourselves, like the practitioners too. But I just, I see it all the time with people. I actually had kind of an intake call the other day with someone, and, I emotionally eat, I just snack, and that's the problem. Like, we're jumping to, I know what to do, but I'm just not doing it without doing the assessment piece.
Yes, without understanding what the components there are. And then we adopt these stories, which again impact the mindset, which become epigenetic factors that feed the whole picture. I actually believe at this point in my life, and I'll be 59 this year, I actually believe that health is having a little bit of wiggle room with the understanding, not having to live this tight and narrow. There's a time and a place for the tight and narrow, and then we have to live. We want to live. Part of the longevity equation has all of these different pieces. Exercise is huge, and there's different ways we can think about how we eat, but our passion and our purpose and our fulfillment in life are equally as important, and we've lost them somewhere along the way in the wellness quest.
Agreed. Yeah, everybody go back to it. We have an episode called The Longevity Equation. And then we even did one also about blue zones. And one of the big factors there that everybody seems to overlook is community.
Yes.
And connection. And all of these things that also, and now I'm sort of in a rabbit hole in my thought process, right? But there's also these quote unquote wellness longevity experts who are living in such an extreme place that there are factors of this longevity that are being ignored.
Yes.
Because there's this hyper focus somewhere else.
Yes. And I wrote an article fairly recently called The Medicine in Belonging. And part of my work in the realm of narrative medicine, layering that on top of functional medicine, is understanding where we have a pharmacy within that we're not tapping into as we look for all the things outside of us to fix us. And in belonging, we turn off genes that exacerbate inflammation. There's so many things. It's why loneliness has gotten a lot of attention, because if we flip the equation of belonging, we get the loneliness. When we're lonely, we actually incite more inflammation in the body. So again, when we think about clear, calm, enhance, and modulate, there's different ways to look at it. It's not like, oh, I have to clear gluten. I'm not saying you do or don't, but it's not only about food. We can't control everything with the factors outside of us. A lot of it is embracing the totality of health.
It's like a beautiful ending point for this conversation. But is there anything we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about? I know you're doing so much more in your work these days too. So anything, a final thought, something to wrap this up, or,
yeah,
we missed?
I know we talked about that non-negotiable trifecta and sleep, poop, blood sugar balance, right? I just want to give people something easy to focus on. So when I think about nutrition, when I think about food, and I know you share so much with folks, but I'm just going to talk into the 3 principles that I invite people to think into. Number 1 is fat, fiber, protein at every meal or snack. I don't care. Don't measure it. Don't worry. Just every meal or snack that's going to help with your blood sugar. if you have fat fiber before you get a continuous glucose monitor and start measuring if anybody's even thinking about that. First, fat fiber protein at every meal or snack. And if you don't know what fat fiber protein is, I have articles on it. I'm sure you have plenty to share. That's principle number one. Principle number two is to eat the rainbow. And that's, really getting us a lot of phytonutrients, a lot of more of the fiber that helps with the fat fiber protein that feeds the microbiome. So eat the rainbow. You can have fun with it. Again, if you want to choose one of these, that is a fine thing to focus on. Just fat fiber protein at every meal. Just eat the rainbow. If you have kids, it's super fun to track what colors am I eating? Where can I find different colors at the co-op or at the farmer's market or store, wherever. The third principle is know your yes, no, maybe list. And that's a perfect ending for our yes and. So thinking into what works for me, what doesn't, and what am I not sure about? That's another great thing to track, to bring to a provider like you, Jen, to say, I feel great when I eat this. I feel horrible when I eat this. And I'm really not sure because sometimes I feel fine and sometimes I don't. That's a great starting point for a conversation where you're raising your hand and asking for help, but taking the time to write that down. Yes, I feel great. No, I don't feel good. And I'm not sure it's a maybe. The only other thing I want to say there is that for some of us, everything's a yes. We don't know that we have any no's, but we don't feel well. And that might need a little bit more discovery. And for some people, there's a lot of control around the no because we are trying to control how we feel with the food that we're eating. So just know that your yes, no, maybe may need another set of eyes that helps you take a next step either in your self-discovery or your internal healing. But 3 principles for us to work with. One is a takeaway: fat, fiber, protein, eat the rainbow, yes, no, maybe list. You're well on your way to all those complicated things we talked about.
Yeah, but now I want to ask you about the poop.
Oh, cool.
Because we have a couple episodes on poop.
What do you want to ask?
When people are looking at those, like if this non-negotiable, what am I looking for to understand if I'm on the right track there or if I need to do work?
Yes. Okay. Beautiful. So I love to have people keep a food, mood, poop journal if they're able. Not everybody is ready to track their food. Some of us have histories of tracking food that aren't healthy and it can be triggering, but I'm just asking for what was eaten. Again, not quantities and no judgment. So food, what'd you eat? Mood is in quotation marks. So how did you feel? Any signs or symptoms through the day? And poop, when'd you go? So we also then use a Bristol stool chart, Bristol, that can give you a number that you can put around your poop so you're not having to describe it in detail if that's uncomfortable. But knowing that you're going at least once a day and that your poop is fully formed and comes out easily, it's not runny, it's not loose, and it's not sticky, and it's not too hard and in droplets. It's a full formed sausage release at least once a day is your ideal. And it can be something really interesting to play with to see what happens if I eat more fiber from veggies. Is it harder to pass? Do I feel more bloated? That becomes more information to bring forward to somebody who you're getting help from as well. But at least once a day, easy to go, sausage-like, not a lot of feelings around it. And it's not hanging on for dear life.
Right. Yeah. And it doesn't take, a pain to get it out.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Amazing. All right. I think it's time for our rapid fire off-topic questions. Are you ready? All right. What's the best thing you've done for your health this week? And what's the naughtiest thing you've done related to your health this week? Not that anything's really naughty, but, balance.
Not so much naughties. The best thing I did was my weekend away in the wildflowers. Like, wow, what amazing time to just get away. So I'm giving that the best. I also slept till the no alarm going off. Like, how lovely was that? So I'm going to say that was the best. The naughtiest for me is drinking coffee. So I did drink coffee through the weekend and even had some on Monday. And it's not bad for me. It's just not ideal for me.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I give myself lots of allowance.
Totally. Right. For all of us, I almost named this podcast French fries and cookie dough because those are foods that I'm never giving up.
There you go.
All right. If you weren't a functional medicine nutritionist and educator, what would you do?
Oh my gosh, I totally would be a full-time writer. I think being a journalist or a writer is like my passion.
Yeah.
Maybe a hip hop dancer too. Hip hop dancer, I'm going to say.
I did not expect that. The writer I could see 1,000%, but all right. Speaking of writing, your favorite book on any topic other than your area of expertise, or you could give us a fiction book.
Yeah, it's hard. That's so hard to pick because I've been immersed in books lately. But I'm going to say that, I'm blanking because I've been so in books. So I'm just going to give the last book that I read that I did like, which is in my area of expertise. So I've been reading a lot of longevity books that I don't like. But I have to say, and I was surprised, Peter Attia's Outlive is actually a great book and gave a lot of great information. And I want to pull from other books that are fiction, but that one is like right in my mind right now.
Great. Yeah. I have a little love-hate with Peter.
I feel the same. And I was surprised. I was not expecting to be like, yeah, man, you got it.
Right.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Right. So this next one will be interesting. If you could cure one ailment, disease, or sickness, what would it be?
Ooh. I think the first thing that comes to my mind is like hate.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Hate and intolerance.
And I don't think anyone has said that in 6 years of this show.
Yeah, I think that's the first thing that came to my mind.
If you were a superhero, what would be your superpower?
Oh, this one I know. If I could touch a book and know everything that was in it without having to spend the time reading it, that would be my superpower.
I want that.
I know. And remember the book's names on the drop of a hat, too.
Right. What's your biggest pet peeve?
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. My son has pet peeves are kind of his thing. I think lack of integrity. I think I have a big issue with lack of integrity, and it gets under my skin.
I'm with you. All right, last one. In your opinion, what's the next frontier in wellness?
Ooh, if I take the word wellness out of it, because I do think that's very industry specific, I'm going to say that the next frontier, actually knowing it's there, is wearables. Not what I wish was the next frontier, but the next frontier is the continuation of data and information and AI.
And what do you wish it was?
What do I wish it was? I wish it was more time and care and listening to patient stories and understanding the true plight and not the named thing alone.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here. Tell everybody how to connect with you, where to learn more, find your work, everything.
Yes, thank you for asking that. You can always find me on all the places at Andrea Nakayama. And that's on Instagram, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and andreanakayama.com. That will lead you back to the Functional Nutrition Alliance, where I do work with practitioners and our clinic. And Andrea Nakayama has all the articles like the medicine and belonging and opportunities like that.
Excellent. I love it. Thank you so much. Just truly appreciate your time and your expertise and how you explain everything in a way that's really actionable and tangible. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, everybody. On Friday, in this week's Nutrition Nugget, we're going to be talking about Bloom energy drinks. It's a sparkling energy drink. I don't know if you've seen it. We had a Nutrition Nugget on Celsius, and then a friend of mine was in town from LA. And I don't even know why it came up or how it came up, but she said she likes the Bloom energy drink and it tastes way better than Celsius. And so I was like, all right, mental note / physical note, because the over 40 brain. So I made a physical note for us to talk about it, and we're going to do it on Friday in this week's bite-sized bonus episode. So wherever you're listening now, be sure to click the plus sign or the follow button so that your app will alert you when it goes live. Well, as always, friends, I'm your host and health coach, Jenn Trepeck. Connect with me on Instagram or all social media. I'm at Jenn Trepeck. Website is A Salad with a Side of Fries. Pick your platform, send a message. I love hearing from you, your ideas, your questions, your takeaways. This is also the easiest way to learn more about working with me as your personal health coach. Andrea Nakayama, thank you again for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And friends, if you are not already, join our membership by going to glow.fm/salad with a side of fries. This shows your support for this podcast, this community, but most importantly, it supports your health. You'll get this week's recipe for the spicy grilled shrimp with pineapple sauce and Andrea's Roadmap to Resolution ebook. So until next week, remember, you as the client or patient are as much a member of the care team as your providers and practitioners. Call it the Therapeutic Alliance, and you can advocate for yourself. You deserve this to ensure your wellness and functional nutrition are part of your healthcare. Well, friends, that's it for today's episode of Salad with a Side of Fries. Congratulations for making yourself and your health a priority. Thanks so much for joining us. Be sure to click subscribe or follow on your favorite podcast platform. Share us with a friend, and we'll be back next week. Always remember, you deserve it, and you are worth it. Happy healthy.